I remember several years ago in the Dallas Fort Worth area, there was a pastor of a large church, and I'm not going to say names. There's no need for that, where the pastor was accused by spanking people. I'm talking about spanking, like how do grown people allow themselves to be spanked by a church leader? Some reports show this, for instance, that 70% of pastors continuously fight depression. And about 50% are so discouraged that they would leave ministry today if they had an opportunity. So churches are putting these fail-safes in place to help pastors and leaders be their best selves while protecting the congregations as well. I don't understand how a grown person will allow another grown person to abuse them in this way. But think about the psychological effects here. Number one, you have a pastor who eventually lost the church. The members were disbanded, probably because they needed to be, but there were children involved as well. And mind you, this was a large congregation, okay, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But imagine the psychological impact that has on children. Think about the many communities, the many people who were receiving possible financial help, family help from not just the pastor, because no one church includes just that one leader, but there's a lot of other people who are doing a lot of good things and helping a lot of people. But what was the mental struggle that the pastor dealt with to result to that kind of behavior? And what were some of the childhood issues that he never dealt with that made him think that was okay? But what about the people who was grown people who have responsibilities, people who know what's right and wrong, sat under a leader who did this continuously? This is what we're talking about. And this is the importance of why we need to talk about this issue. Now, if this video is making sense to you, I need you to hit that subscribe button so we can continue having these vital conversations to try to prevent these issues from getting worse. And you've seen in the news that some pastors who have an immense amount of influence are falling prey to some very, very hurtful and egregious behavior. And that is the aftermath when a pastor doesn't have a sense of conscientiousness about himself, when a church board doesn't put the proper fail-safes in place. Congregants become victims. That's why this is important. Listen, if you are a young pastor and you're listening and watching this for the first time, I want to say you have chosen a noble calling. You have followed the voice of God, and that's important for you. But I also want to speak to those of you who may have experienced this kind of abuse in your church. And I want to say that my heart goes out to you. I'm praying for you. And in no way is this video intended to overlook the victims who have been abused by a church leader or a ministerial person in authority who has preyed upon you or preyed upon members of your family. My prayers go out to you. And I want to say that that is absolutely not what we're supporting. But my goal in doing this is to try to help solve the problem. Now, because human beings are human beings, and some people get into these positions and they've never dealt with their childhood trauma, hurt people. So with that being said, I know that we're not going to solve the problem totally, but what I'm simply trying to get at here, it's important that we have the conversation, that we try to do our best, make our best efforts in order to provide some kind of solutions to improve the process. So what are some of the preventative measures? If you're a church leader watching this, or if you, I would encourage you to even forward it to a church leader and recommend that they watch it as well. Number one, you can ask a pastor, are they praying regularly? Are they reading their scripture? Are they having private devotions? These things are essential to character development. They help develop a strong sense of accountability to a higher power. And so because of the stresses and the strains that we talked about earlier that a pastor can go through, if he or she is not having these regular spiritual disciplines, they can become dissonant from what they believe to what they're actually doing. And that's where the problem derives from, I believe. And so developing a strong relationship with God and their spiritual disciplines can help strengthen their resistance to temptation. As Psalms 119:11 says, I will hide your word in my heart so that I may not sin against God. Second, I want to encourage pastors and leaders to have an accountability structure. This is not filled with people who are yes people, who will do whatever you say. But no, they need partners and mentors that will help them deal with the crucial struggles that they have. Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron, so does one person sharpen another. So that's what church boards are there for. They're there for oversight. They're there for accountability. They're there to make sure that checks and balances are in place so that pastors don't make these kind of decisions. And then number 3, which is most important, I want to say self-care and mental health checks. It's okay if you're a pastor to have therapists. You need therapy as a spiritual leader. And if you want the people to also live out their authentic self, then we have to create an environment where we talk about our struggles, not as if we are better than the people that we lead, but that we are one with them. The prophet Isaiah said he sat where the people sat. In other words, he was around the people. He struggled with the same struggles that they struggle with. And he talked about them openly. If I give you a personal experience, one of the reasons why I like the chaplain corps is because we talk about our struggles. Hey, we all talk about when we have family issues or when we're not getting along with our spouse or when we have financial issues. Everybody knows about what you're going through. There are several meetings that we get together and talk about how we can help each other get beyond our struggles. If the pastors can take anything from this experience, from this lesson, it is creating a culture where people can actually talk about their struggles so that they can get over them and not blame people or make them feel bad about their struggles, but to help them get the resources and help they need so they can be a healthy person. If pastors prioritize self-care, then we're moving toward them becoming a better version of themselves. And so when they come and speak or work with you or work with a church program or in their leadership authority, they will be a more healthy person, which will allow them to function and not make bad decisions when they get stressed out. So this includes taking breaks, going on vacation, seeking professional counselors, right? Finding out if they have mental health struggle or if they have a diagnosable mental health problem. Pastors can help manage their stress by having these checks and balances in place. Well, here's what we talked about, right? We explored the causes of moral failure. Okay, we talked about what are the causes of moral failures among pastors, both the biblical, and we touched briefly on the psychological perspective that is important as well. We discussed the importance of spiritual discipline, accountability, and self-care. I want to encourage each of you, if you are a leader or a pastor, or if you know someone who's a leader or pastor who can benefit from this video, I want to encourage you to implement these strategies in your own lives. This is something that I work on constantly because it's important. It's never perfect, but it's always a strive to live up to these standards, right? So let's work together to support each other and to support our leaders. If you have a good pastor who's doing some good things in the community and is doing the right thing, help him get the help that he needs to address these very, very important issues that will keep them from moral failures, that will keep them from making decisions that puts their career and abuses the lives of others at stake, right? So these are proactive solutions that you can implement in your leadership, and it could be in or outside of church. It does not matter. The goal is to prevent. That's always the goal. is to help us to live our authentic self and to prevent these tragedies from happening so that we can make the world a better place. So thank you for listening. And I want to encourage you to check out the next video right here that talks about mental health. Peace.